Wonderful. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a wonderful day, at least here in Solon. The flowers are blooming and the weather is so gorgeous out here right now. It's in the early 20s, Vivek, Aarti ma'am. And we're delighted to be here talking to you and welcome all of you to Ideas That Matter. These are series of webinars that Shulini is doing along with Vivek and me. And the whole idea is to speak to young teachers, schools, and inspire them in different ways. A quick introduction to me. My name is Atul, as I said. I'm a BTech from IIT Kanpur, an MBA from a school called Bajaj in Bombay, and I then worked more than 20 years in the corporate sector, seven different countries, two different startups. And my last job was in consulting, where I was heading Indian Asia for Oliver Wyman, which is the third largest consulting firm in the world. Around 7 years ago, the teaching bug hit me and I moved full time to teaching. So Aarti ma'am was asking me, what do I do apart from the university? And I was telling her that I love teaching. I'm a very proud teacher. I hate the word management and a trustee and other words which are used for people who run a school or a university. And I'm very proud always to say that I'm a teacher at heart and love teaching and speaking. So thank you very much for the opportunity. We're honored to have Mr. Vivek Atray with us today. Vivek, a very dear friend, is an ex-IAS officer, a TEDx speaker. One of his claims to fame, of course, as I always say, is the IT park of Chandigarh, whose architect is Vivek. He's got many, many other facets under his belt. He's a motivational speaker. He's an author, uh, lots and lots of things, and also a visiting professor and advisor to Shulini University. So the topic is very, very interesting, ma'am, that you've given us today. You've asked us to speak on strategies for success in a school, and I can interpret it in many ways. Strategy for a school, which is strategy for teachers, but I can also interpret it as a strategy for students. So
Yeah,
we'd love,
absolutely.
before we start, we'd love to hear from you for a minute or so and help us sharpen the topic a little bit, Aarti ma'am, and we'd love to then take you through our journey and our discussion. And then I'll
Okay.
hand it over to Vivek and I'll jut in every now and then. Aarti ma'am.
I somehow feel the right success story of a school is with its students, right? So, first of all, the leader of the ship and the teachers, they must have the right goal in front of them. What do they plan in the long term or in the short term for the students and for the future of the school? Second thing I feel for the success strategy of a good school is that having a quality staff, I would say, not smart staff. I don't say the staff who's smart to look at, but yes, who's knowledgeable and smart enough to understand the needs and requirements of the children and be ready to change the curriculum or develop and build the curriculum with the team as per the requirements. Then what I feel is that it's important for a school and a teacher and also the students to know the global trends, how we are working, what are the demands of the time, and what we are aspiring for. And those are the things we must nurture inside the system and pave ways open for the students so that they can look forward into a further wider horizon, you see. And then, of course, something additional and something different which other schools don't do should be a part of the school if the school has to use, if the school wants to be really successful. Like, I would say planning some special needs program or planning some counseling sessions or visiting faculties, coming into school, looking into the needs of the children and giving them a better focus and things like that. I think this is what I feel these are some of the important things. But then over to you to just hear from you all. Like, what do you think as teachers and as head of the school and as administration? What are the important things which we should be focusing on in this COVID time, and how we should proceed forward?
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
What an amazing topic. And who else better than Vivek to handle it? He's also been Director Education for Haryana. So I'm sure, Vivek, you'll have lots and lots of thoughts based on an educationist at heart that you are, and also from your experiences. And like I said, every now and then, I'd also like to come in and share some thoughts. Over to you, Vivek. Thank you.
Thank you, Atul. Thank you so much for that introduction, Professor Atul Khosla. And thank you, Aarti ma'am, for the welcome and warm introduction and to the topic as well. And we understand very well as to what you are looking forward to. I'm very glad that the teachers have joined in large numbers. They will also appreciate some of the points we raise and go forward with that kind of knowledge and insight. I'm very glad that Shulini is able to reach out to your school because Shulini University is carrying out these webinars for various schools of North India. And yours is, I think, probably logistically the farthest distance. I'm not sure. Maybe Yamunanagar is farther from Shulini, but it's quite far. And very nice to know that you are very keen to have your teachers listen to this webinar. So, ma'am, just to put it in perspective first, I will touch upon this topic in three ways. Atul Khosla is a very dynamic leader himself. He underplays himself. He says he's a teacher, but he's also a very sharp consulting brain. And he was in McKinsey Consulting, etc., before he came here. So he will add to my ideas, I'm sure, during the program. Firstly, I'd talk at the leadership level. Then I will talk at the level of the teachers. And then I will talk at the level of the students. So that is what the three stakeholders of education are. And of course, the parents are also stakeholders, but we will talk about them also a little bit. Leadership, if you talk of leadership, then the leadership of an institution has to have vision, has to have foresight, has to have perspective, has to have a large heart, and has to see the bigger picture of life and the institution. And if you talk about the leadership of the school, which includes the principal and the management and the senior faculty, I guess, it is basically to see that not only in COVID times, like you said, but overall, whenever crises come, whenever ups and downs come, we are able to steer the ship of the institution smoothly forward. It may be a pause that comes when you find a pause like lockdown, that things are difficult, but you don't stop your ambitions and dreams and goals. You look forward to greater expansion of the school by and by, gradually over the years. And you try and envision everything in a manner that it is robust. So, firstly, the thing to do is to develop sustainable plans. And sustainable plans are those which stand and withstand the tests and trials that will come over time. This is a test which has come over humanity. We are all locked down, but there are people who are still making a lot of inroads into progress and success. And I'm sure your school has also started a lot of online classes or are in the process of doing so, and your children are connecting through that. And teachers may be finding it difficult, but they will have to adapt and they will adapt. I will come to teachers also. But talking of leadership, once again, if you look at the overall resources picture, then infrastructure, as you mentioned, is one part of it. Human resources is the key part, the key element. And the third is the financial resources, the kinds of revenue model that you have. So any organization where a leadership is looking forward to what is coming in the next 5 years or 10 years or even 2 years has to see the overall scenario, has to see where we are at the moment. So I also have been in consulting a little bit, and I can tell you there is something known as a gap analysis. It's not a difficult term to understand. So basically, we find out first where are we? Are we at this level? And are we wanting to go to this level? So there is a gap between the two levels. And if we look at this gap and analyze this gap, then we are able to go from level, let's say, 1 to 2. And for this gap analysis, we will have to see as to what our goals are and how to achieve them, what are the budgets available, what is the prognosis of the difficulties that we are facing, what are the various factors that are going to influence us, who are the stakeholders, where will the finances come from, how much land do we have, what is our income and expenditure statement. These are macro level factors which will impact your institution. So if I talk as an administrator or former administrator, I would look at all these factors and then I would see that this is where I am and this is where I am to go. What are my requirements? What is the gap and how do I fill it up? So at a leadership level, my first priority has to be to see that I have the right people at the helm of affairs, at the right functions and duties to perform, and I have the best team in order to go forward. If I don't have the best team, then the best laid plans may not go well. In any case, it is said that man proposes and God disposes. So this is what is happening now. We may have planned various things in the months of March, April, and May, but they have all gone for a toss. So our plans have to be such that we have a team to implement them, and our planning is realistic as well as sustainable. It should not be a wild dream to become, let us say, we are ranked, for example, we are ranked 500th in the country. And we say that in 1 year we should be first in the country. It's not possible. There are so many things involved, and there are things to go forward that we need to study. So the ecosystem, the stakeholders, the revenue model, the resources, especially the team resources, the human resources, we'll have to study. Then we'll have to look at the fact that supposing we need to allocate budget for a particular emergency or exigency, and we need to reallocate that budget from the management, will have to see from a particular construction activity that we were planning, or a hostel that we were to add, or some sports infrastructure that we were to build. We will have to keep that pending for 2 years or 1.5 years and go in for something else at the same time. So these are macro level decisions that the management has to take. But the main thing, as I said, is that the management has a team which works, which responds, which reacts positively, and that team has the capacity to take forward the plans. So if we talk of the team of the school, the leadership team, I would say that that is in itself essential for us to move forward. And by showing the vision to be a part of this webinar series, or whatever I know about your school now, I can see that you are already looking forward to getting new ideas, getting macro level best practices from various places, and moving forward in a manner that is far-sighted and sustainable. So your leadership is absolutely on the ball and as per requirement. I think that the principal, the staff, the senior management need to sit together and work out a strategy. And that strategy has to be doable. And when we work out a strategy, we make it in phases. We say, okay, in the first year, we want to achieve this after Corona. And second year, we want to achieve this. Could be after Corona, or it could be after something else. That's just a generic idea. And in the third year, we want to achieve this. Supposing we have a 3-year plan. In that strategy, you will then come into the nitty-gritty, the meticulous planning, that in the first year, month-wise, these are the targets. These are the milestones that we want to achieve. If recruitment is part of your plan for, let's say, 6 teachers in this year, you have to budget for it. You have to have a team for it. You have to see what are the factors involved for recruitment. So let us come to the second part of the picture, which is the humanware, which is the teachers, which is the team at the middle level or the teaching level. If you look at that second level, then these teachers have to be you teachers who are part of this webinar also. You are also to be in sync or thinking the same way as the top management and the leadership of the school. Because your role, it may be a moderate role or a little role or a big role. It has to align with your energy has to align with the overall objectives of the organization. And if you become a team player, that is if you take a cricket analogy, if you score 60 runs and it adds to the team's effort and the team makes 600 runs, that means you have done your bit. But if you score 60 runs in, let's say, the whole day, and it is a test match, and your team has scored only 180 runs in the whole day as a result, that means that you have taken too much time. You may have been a little self-centered while scoring those 60 runs, not taking risks where you should have taken risks. So you understand the fact that each person matters in the organization. The strategy of the school has to be also to deploy those teachers with certain qualities of a particular kind in that very realm. So man management or people management, as I should call it, is something which is vital to the context. And therefore, you will deploy those teachers to that area where you feel that they will bring in the best results. I'll give you an example of because I speak a lot on leadership and emotional intelligence. I have these talks all over, and Shulini has brought out these topics from me in this webinar series. So if you look at personality types, a teacher who is meticulous, a person who is very hardworking on paper, very organized, meticulous, calculations are very good, the paperwork is great, the kind of effort and involved in preparing all these documents is superb, and that person is given charge of such an area of work where her skills or his skills are utilized to the best, that will be the best. But if you put this person who is very, very meticulous at paperwork in charge of the annual function, let's say music extravaganza, may not be possible for that teacher or person to fulfill that kind of objective because she or he doesn't have that talent. There is someone else who is very good at event management, coming forward, reaching out to the parents and the students, very good at public relations, is a good communicator, not very good at numbers and reports and organized paperwork and meticulous methods, then you cannot give that person this work. So recognizing the skill sets of people is a vital component of moving forward. That strategy will have to take into account the kinds of people you have in your team. You have go-getters, you have quiet workers, you will have to use them both in various ways. And that will enable you to take the right steps in order to move forward. We are going to have very shortly a break, but before that, I'm going to also add very quickly about the students, and I will continue about the students and parents after the break. The students are also your ambassadors. And whenever we are implementing a strategy and that perception which goes out into the society is positive, is good, then the students are playing that role, that means. Because the way they are, their personalities, their uniform, their way of speaking, they impress the families they meet, the society they are in touch with. Their parents are proud, they feel good about the school. Then the parents, through the students, also contribute to the growth of the school. So this is, as an administrator and somewhat educationist, I can see that the synergy between the leadership, the teachers, the students, and the parents, the synergy has to be seamless, has to be absolutely without hurdles. Only then we'll be able to move forward. So at that very macro level, high level kind of thinking, as it is called technically, not actually high level, Atul Khosla, I would request you to come in and bring in your ideas on the same, as also the video of Aman, who is a wonderful talent at the university.
Thank you, Vivek. I think you brought in a few wonderful concepts, and I'd like to add on to the concept, two concepts over here. One is the concept of vision. Great things can only happen if we aspire to win over the moon. Of course, we need to have a plan for that, but defining the vision becomes very, very important. So I'll give a small example of Shulini. When we started 10 years back, we made a very big statement. We said we'd like to be a top 200 global university by 2022. There is no Indian university, public or private, including the mighty IITs, who have a rank higher than 350. The highest is IIT Bombay, I think, at 350 to 400 rank. Now, this sounds impossible, but I think that's where the magic starts. So we got ourselves benchmarked, Vivek. We'll be able to apply only in 2022 for these global rankings, but we got ourselves benchmarked by a couple of international agencies. And we're sort of somewhere touching this ranking. So as per these rankings, we are now already somewhere around the 400 rank. So how did this happen? And why would this happen to Shulini? Why not so many other colleges, universities, schools that are there? I think it's also about having a bold vision with a very clear plan, which you said. To me, it's also about, apart from being bold, it's about thinking outside the box. It's about being creative. And it's also about putting a lot of onus on your faculty and students. I think in the context of that, I'm going to bring in the example of Aman, who's a student of Shulini, comes from Punjab, comes from a small town of Punjab in Hoshiarpur district, was a very average student in her undergrad and postgrad. And then she went for a PhD with a great professor at Shulini, Dr. Saurabh Kulshrestha. And with a luck of chance, started working on water purification. With with a bit of chance, with some luck, discovered a molecule which kills bacteria in water. And with a lot of hard work and a lot of support from the university and her friends, applied for a very prestigious award called the World Water Fellowship. So Aman won the World Water Fellowship. It's a UN fellowship. More than 100,000 researchers had actually applied for this fellowship. Aman won it. She spent 4 months in Geneva as part of this. Post that, she's now won a 25 lakh award by Tata Trust and Lockheed Corporation. She is doing extremely well, and once you see the video, you'll understand why what she's discovered is absolutely unique and absolutely path-breaking. And the point I wanted to make over here is that when you go to your students, you go to your faculty, and you stretch them, they can actually end up doing extraordinary things. So I'll actually really encourage Aarti ma'am, for you to have very ambitious goals. Start by saying you'll be the first, you'll be one of the best schools in your district, then in the state, and why not in India, and have a very clear action plan for that. So let me play this small video on the work that Aman has done on water. And after that, we'll have Vivek go into very specific thoughts on how to become a great school. I think I got the, sorry, I apologize. I did not play the audio. Give me 1 second, please, everyone. Okay. Yes. So Vivek, the concept that I was sharing here was creativity. And where does this creativity come from? I think a lot of it comes from culture. A lot of it comes from the type of values that you'll bring into your students and to your faculty. Small examples over here. When we started thinking about a culture of quote unquote liberal thinking and freedom at Shulini, we basically said, let's have our library open 24 hours, 365 days. Completely unheard of in this part of the world, while it's very common in the US. And we made it happen. Initially, no one came, no student came. But now when you go at 2 o'clock at night, you'll see lots and lots of students preparing for the civil services, because that's the time they have, which is free. We then went and made our labs open 24 hours. And that's when magic like what you saw with Aman starts happening. So I think it's a lot about doing some very exciting things. Before I hand it over to you, I just like to add two more comments over here. One is, my opinion is the world post-COVID is going to be fundamentally different, at least in the medium term, if not in the near term, for schools and universities and colleges, which basically comes to how rapidly we can adopt technology. You're already seeing Byju's and Unacademy and other platforms eating into where you play as teachers. So don't let them take the inspiration away. You'll have to fight it out. Simple things that you'll have to do is to say and ask yourself, why should a student go to a tuition class? Or why should a student go to Byju's? Or why should a student go to any other platform to prepare for, let's say, IIT or NEET? Can you provide superior capabilities to students in your school, as an example? How do you make sure that your online lectures are best practice? Please have a look at some best practice online lectures. Have your teachers go out and do certification courses. There are free certification courses on edX and Coursera and Udemy and other platforms. We can also help you if you want. Shulini is doing a lot of work in that. But you have to move yourself to the new wave of thinking. I'll come to the new wave after Vivek's thoughts, because sometimes I can get too revolutionary. So Vivek, over to you, and then I'd like to speak for 10 minutes, 5 minutes before we close. And of course, a lot of questions coming in. Thank you. Vivek.
Sure, Atul, thank you for that video and the inputs. Can you hear me? Yeah. So thank you for that video and those inputs, wonderful thoughts. And it's great to know that this is the way forward. But are you able to now envision a future where you are capable of handling the requirements? We spoke about the stakeholders. We spoke about the principal, the teachers, the management, and the students and parents. If all of them are in synergy, if all of them are together, if all of them work hard forward, then things will work. What are the qualities required by each set of individuals? So some basic qualities I'm going to quote from the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, and there are 26 qualities of human beings that are listed there. And these give an idea as to how we should work on our humanware and on ourselves. We are, let's say, about, let us say we have to work with 100 people. Can most of these 100 people exhibit some of these qualities? So the qualities of leadership that the Bhagavad Gita gives are fearlessness. Fearlessness means total faith in yourself and in God. Purity of psyche. That means you are thinking only of the organization or of positive things, not negative, not jealous, not hateful. Perseverance in yoga of self-knowledge. That means that you are also thinking of your spiritual aspects apart from your mind and body. Charity, which means the organization and the individuals are also compassionate. They are thinking of others, that is society, poor people, those who are not so lucky. Self-restraint, which means we don't give in to temptations all the time. We are humans, so sometimes we will eat an extra chocolate or an extra mango or do things which are human, but not most of the time, not all the time. Then sacrifice, we sacrifice for our children often, we sacrifice for society, we should, and we sacrifice for work. So if we are able to give our best. Study of the scriptures, most people have been studying scriptures during the lockdown. Good to continue after the lockdown also. Make it a part of your life. Austerity, not being ostentatious, not ostentatious, not splurging, overspending, spending only when required, and being moderate, being comfortable but balanced. Then honesty. Honesty is still the virtue when we are working for an organization. We are dedicated to that school or institution. We work honestly and diligently. Non-violence, which means that we do not think of wrongdoing towards others. We do not feel aggressively towards others. Jealousy and things like that don't enter our minds except maybe in a weak moment sometimes. Truthfulness, then absence of anger, renunciation of our own, let's say, wants. And sometimes we renounce some of them in order to become more balanced and declutter our life.
I mentioned absence of anger also, which means that we are balanced in our minds despite all the problems and provocations which come. Then equanimity. Equanimity means even-mindedness. Whether problems come or happy times come, we are even-minded. Then abstinence from malicious talk, which means we are not hateful in our speech, not talking badly about others. Compassion again for all creatures. Freedom from greed. That is also a sign of austerity, not overdoing anything. Gentleness in our demeanor, in our attitude, in the way we are. Modesty, humility, absence of fickleness, not that one day we say something, next day we say something else, and third day we say something totally different. Splendor, which means that we have an aura, we have positive personalities. Forgiveness, which means we have a badappan in our minds, we are able to think highly and not get into petty things, that I will take revenge on this, I will do this, I will do that. Forgive the other person and move on. Fortitude means resilience and strength of character. And then cleanliness of mind and surroundings. Absence of malice. Earlier was malicious talk. This one means that you don't hate others. You have no vengeance in your mind. An absence of pride, which means that you are not overthinking about your own self, your own success, your own whatever. In fact, if you look at a human level, overthinking is a major problem of this era. And leaders or teachers or parents who are overstressed because they think that, everything will go wrong. What will my child do now? What will my students do? What will my school do? We think of the worst. If we overthink of the worst, the fear factor, the worry factor, they start playing up, and we are not able to perform at our best. So we need to utilize our energies to the positive limit and to use our capacity only for positivity and achieving the objectives. In the first part of my talk, I mentioned strategy. I mentioned the infrastructure, the resources, the human resources, the finances. They all have to be properly managed. The strategy has to be such that it is achievable, sustainable, given the resources that you have. And working on a team, a human resources set, which is absolutely in accordance with the team that you need, and allocating those areas of work to those people who are capable of performing them. And then synergizing the energies of the stakeholders, which is the management, the principal, the teachers, the students, and the parents. And teachers include staff, all staff. So these are the macro level ideas, and the human qualities which I mentioned are leadership qualities which will enable you and the teachers and the students to go forward and implement those strategies and ideas. Of course, we are human. Of course, we have drawbacks and fears and worries, and we often get angry also, but we try to improve. Human levels have to improve in order for an institution to improve. If we have people of a low level, of a highly negative mindset in an institution, then that whole institution vibrates with negativity, and that will never give rise to success of any kind for the institution. Negativity in the vibrations of the institution has to be reduced and replaced by positivity. And positivity means that everybody gives their all to the institution. They do well for themselves as well as for the organization. That is how it works. If you look at a doubles tennis player, a team of doubles, let's say mixed doubles, let us say Sania Mirza is teaming up with an American tennis player. Both of them are from different backgrounds. They have to work together in tandem. They have to perform at a level that doubles requires extreme coordination. One person is at the net, one person is at the baseline. How are they going to smoothly transit from baseline to net? How is the server going to serve? And where is the partner going to stand? The sign language, everything comes into play in a doubles match. Similar results, trying to get good results, good management, good infrastructure, good teamwork. We have to think of teamwork, and that teamwork will take us forward in many ways. I think Atul has a lot of ideas on this subject. So being an educationist and a pro vice chancellor, he has every right to please add, Atul, your ideas on this topic, and then we'll move forward with the video. As well as teachers, I would request you to please ask questions in the chat box. You already have a request from Atul. I will add my request. It is much more fun when we get questions from you and more participation. Atul.
Yeah, I think Aarti ma'am put a very lovely framework together on strategy for building a great school. And I'll just like to give you my framework. I think there are 5 pillars to build a great educational institution, and I'll go through one by one, which all are these. First is, like what Vivek said, leadership and governance. Culture comes into that. So do we have the right plans? Do we have the right strategy? Do we have the right governance to manage the school? Are we transparent enough? Etc., etc., etc. So think about that as the foundation of the strategy of the school. And there are 4 more pillars which I'd like to build on. The first is faculty. So ma'am spoke about it. I believe that the future is going to be different what we had in the past. The future of schools is going to be what we would have thousands of years back, which I call the Gurukuls. So what would happen in a Gurukul? There were star teachers in Gurukuls. Dronacharya was the star guru. So I believe that as part of a strategy, some of you will have to step up to become those stars. And why would you have to become stars? It's very simple. Because if you are actors, which you are now because you're now giving lectures online, who knows who your audience is? It's not just the students. It could actually be the parents, it could be the neighbors, it could be anyone. So you can also scale up by 5 or 7 or 10 star teachers, and you can scale up and reach many, many more people beyond your school. So the faculty, the quality of the faculty, the training that you give the faculty or the teachers, but also more importantly, those 5 or 7 or 10 teachers. So this is at some level an opportunity for great teachers, but also a wake-up call for the others. I think they're going to be star teachers and their assistants. So you as teachers will have to decide whether you would like to be the star teacher or you would like to be the assistant of the star teacher. So please, sharpen your skills of teaching. That's the first pillar. The second pillar is going to be the students that you have. I call them bright yet needy students. So you need not only get students from rich backgrounds. I think increasingly schools and universities should have a very strong financial pool for scholarships to get the bright and needy students in there. This is beyond the schemes that the government has. So can you get these students and make them world beaters? Someone like Aman. So can all of us have a large number of such students who change the character of the school, bring in diversity into the student population? That's the second thing. The third thing is infrastructure. That's the most obvious one. I think infrastructure needs to be inspiring. So post World War II, Churchill gave a very famous speech. And the title of the speech was, "Put the Gardens in Place." So in Parliament, in the British Parliament, he was asked, what do we do post World War? And his speech was, "Put the gardens in place." And I think that's what we all have to do. Basically, he was saying gardens create inspiration. And we need to bring inspiration back into our educational institutions, because this 2 months, 3 months, 5 months would have killed a lot of inspiration, a lot of depression happening, a lot of stress happening. So invest in exciting things inside and outside the classroom from an infrastructure perspective. Invest in technology in a very sizable way. Zoom is just the starting point of technology, it's the tipping point of technology. Aarti ma'am, I'll be very, very happy to speak to you about what can be done on technology if you're interested. We have a very, very big initiative happening on this. We've been working for the last 5 years on technology in educational scenarios. Happy to share our views on that. The final one, most important, is alliances. So deep alliances with other educational entities and possibly the industry or possibly the community. So these are things that we have not done in the past. We're all loners. We all try to give the best possible education to our students in an isolated way. So can we think about alliances, for example? Why would your school and our university not have an alliance where our faculty can come and teach in your school, your faculty and the teachers can come and learn at Shulani, our students can come there and teach, and vice versa? There's a flow of knowledge that's happening. And I think that framework will, to me, be part of the strategy that a school or a university or a college would have. I'll again repeat, the foundation is the leadership and the culture and the strategic plan and the vision that you have, the four pillars being the faculty, the students, the infrastructure, and the alliances that you have. And of course, along with that, you'll have to think about pedagogy. You'll have to think about how do you deliver pedagogy or teaching or learning in the new world. I'll end by just making one statement, which is the future of the country sits on you. You're already doing a great job. My belief is that the media has completely missed out on some Corona warriors, and those Corona warriors are the teachers. You've ensured that not a single day of teaching is lost. You've ensured that despite all the pressures from home, you're teaching every day with the same quality that you brought into the classroom. It's an amazing thing that has happened. You're making the young Indians successful. You're pushing every day to make that happen, which I think is what's going to be the new role of a school. I think post-corona, there's a democratization that's happening of education. Students will be able to learn anything and everything wherever they are. They don't have to be going to a privileged school or be children of privileged families to get the learning. And I think that's also a big opportunity and a challenge for us. I think in that context, I'd like to, Vivek, with your, if you allow me to play a small video about the philosophy of Shulani, how we think about making young Indians and young human beings world beaters. So I'll play that, and last thoughts from Vivek after that, and then Q&A. Give me a minute.
Throughout history, the young have always been the ones to shape the future. And they continue to do so today. You are the country's biggest asset, our best bet to conquer the future. So what are you waiting for? Your time to dream is now. Dream of the research that can change the world. Dream of a high-flying corporate career. Dream of higher studies in the world's best universities. Dream of developing cutting-edge technology of the future. Dream of your own global startup. At Shulani University, we empower you and enable you to chase your dreams and change the world. Shulani University. Think learning, think success.
Thank you for the opportunity, Vivek, Aarti ma'am. Before I hand it over to Vivek again, I'd just like to mention one particular thing which is very, very close to my heart, which I think should be the strategy of every educational institution. And that is bringing yoga and spirituality into the institution. 25 years ago, the Dalai Lama said that if every young kid of the world practiced yoga, there will be no terrorists. There'll be happiness everywhere. I know, Vivek, this is a topic close to your heart, so I'm going to hand it over to you to speak about it for a minute. But definitely in my strategy for the school, spirituality and yoga will definitely be there, and we're adding that at Shulani. Vivek.
Thank you so much, Atul. Very, very good ideas on the subject and really, really useful inputs. I think the school will also do well, yes, to add yoga and meditation in the curriculum. Many schools have added meditation to their curriculum already. And whichever religion we are from, we follow our scriptures, we follow our religious practices, but we also meditate. And if we meditate, I know of a toddler school where they have started for 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 5 minutes of meditation. And those little toddlers don't know what meditation is, but they sit down and they try to close their eyes for those 5 minutes and not do anything else. So it's very important to center yourself on spirituality as well. But I think, Atul, speaking of the school, I think the school and the team obviously has what it takes to go forward. We'd like to hear
Absolutely.
from them as to more questions. And one question which is there, which is a sort of recap question I will take up. It is, what are the essential things to make our strategy successful? So I'll just recap and then Atul will add. So basically, you need to have a vision, you need to have a goal, and in that goal, you need to see that you do not overreach, you do not overdream, you need to be practical, but you need to see your resources, that is your financial resources, your land resources, your property resources, your team resources, your revenue models, and your income streams, so that you can accordingly construct or enhance your infrastructure. You need to bring in new programs which are viable, and you need to have the right team for that purpose. So recruitment and whatever is necessary also has to be done. And capacity building, which we've mentioned in kind of oblique mentions, training of teachers, motivation, and also their problem management, whatever stresses and strains they feel, counseling for the teachers also perhaps, and emotional intelligence also needs to be there in them. So teachers and the team which is going to implement your strategy has to be spot on, and in a teamwork sense, they need to work together. And then I said, involve the parents and the students. If they become ambassadors of your school, then you will achieve your targets much better and much more easily. Atul, you'd like to add to how to make the strategy successful?
Yeah, I think two more things over here, Vivek. One is do have a time schedule for implementing a strategy, which means an action plan, and monitor that action plan very specifically. One tip which I'll give is, one of the things I do with my team is I request them to say, give me new ideas. So we all sit together once a month, collate all new ideas, out of the box ideas, creative ideas. And every month we implement one such idea, Vivek. So it could be something as crazy as something which no one has thought before. It could be something that we've always wanted to do. But I call it an idea workshop, where we do not challenge. When you do this idea workshops, you do not challenge the idea. You just ask people to give the idea. No one challenges the idea. No one asks why or how it is possible. So we just write all those ideas out, and then we implement the one that we think is the most appropriate every month.
Absolutely. Baljinder ji says nice views on leadership and all. So we don't have any more questions right now. Please ask a couple more. It will be nice. Otherwise, we'll carry on with a few examples and then close.
So I have a couple of questions, Vivek, because you run a school and you're closest to a school. You've got a toddler school, of course, not a high school. But if there were 3 things you have to do different in your school, what are those 3 things going to be? I am sure everyone would like to hear that.
Atul is absolutely right. The toddler school that I mentioned is actually a family school. And my wife is the principal of that toddler's school in Panchkula. And in fact, we live on the campus here. So it's toddler school. 3 things that we need to do, Atul has asked. Firstly, we need to probably reach out a little more to the community. in our sense. We have the infrastructure, we have the numbers of students, we have good programs, but perhaps the awareness levels are not as much. So I myself am a promoter and a PR kind of person, but the management of the school is a little shy. So my wife is the director. I keep telling her more promotion, more reaching out and participation. Secondly, I think it is very good to get ideas from the parents. So if the school involves the parents in ideation as to what needs to be done to further enhance the level of education, that also is something that is being planned. And thirdly, of course, continuous upgradation of equipment or methods of teaching, online classes, even for toddlers, they have started already. They are sending a lot of material to parents for
Wow.
nursery rhymes and things like that. Even nursery rhymes are now part of learning, and they always are, but now they're going online. So doing these three things, I think these are. Yes, Atul.
Wow, that's very interesting, Vivek. I was also thinking of as you were laying these three things out. Uh, how would as I don't know whether you have plans for making your school from a toddlers to a high school and then a secondary school. But if you had those plans, one of the things we also spoke about was reaching out to the community, which you said. What do you think is the role of not-for-profit work helping the community in that context for a school? Do you think it should be part of the strategy for every school to reach out to even the community of people who are beyond the school? They're not parents, but they're helping the community in some small way or the other. Do you think there's a role that a school has or a college?
Absolutely, absolutely, Atul. Our school is probably going to remain a toddler school because of the size of the plot and the norms of the government, and we are quite happy to remain that. But reaching out to the community, I totally agree. The students, especially, will understand that this is a part of life which cannot be ignored. The teachers obviously are already older, but they also will be involved in that activity. And when the students are involved in reaching out to the community, which cannot really help you back. So when you're doing something for someone who cannot help you back, that selfless sacrifice, giving, that feeling comes into the students, and the community starts feeling the positive impact of whatever help the school is doing. So I think the school's image goes up, the vibrations are positive, the students learn how to be compassionate individuals. I think it's a very, very important aspect.
So one more question before we probably close and request Aarti ma'am to come on board. I've always been, one of the big challenges we have, and I'm sure that's true for your school, ma'am, is how do we manage the regulator? Now, you've been the regulator, you've been in the government, you've been on the other side. We want to do new things, we want to go out and experiment with new pedagogy, but many times the regulator sort of comes into place, whether it's the district education officer or it's the CBSE or whoever the regulator is. So, three tips to manage the regulator in a nice way. We can get our work done, but also, get it done without too much of pain.
Yeah, so I have been, as you said, on the other side, and I've seen the mess that is the education system in the government. There are pockets of excellence. There are good initiatives amid the jungle of various things that are happening. So basically, the first thing out of the three would be to get clarity on what does the system stand for and what are the areas where you can actually seek cooperation from the regulator or the government, and what are the areas you should focus on which are in accordance with the national priority or the regional priority or the state priority. Secondly, I would say that getting the regulator to understand your concepts and your vision is a great idea. So when that regulator visits your school, he will see or she will see things which are not otherwise evident when you write letters or send reports. So a visit by the regulator without, with invitation instead of a raid or something would be a great idea. And thirdly, I think a general perception management exercise, as Shulini also is doing so beautifully, to basically enhance the perception of your school amid the community and society, which will reach the regulator also. So I think that also is important.
So Meenu ma'am has a question over here. Vivek. She's asking, when you introduce new things, there's sometimes a challenge to handle it. So how do you manage the change? How do you manage the challenges of change?
Absolutely, very good question. In fact, change is always required and needed, and change is the only constant, as they say. But whenever you try to change something, people are so used to the status quo that they find it difficult to adapt. So that challenge will definitely come
Yeah.
by explaining to people beforehand that this is the way we are now going to do things, and by getting their buy-in in a way that they are absolutely on board before you actually take up that new way of doing something. If the team is on board, one or two people may be exceptions, then it is okay. And that challenge will also come in various ways, not only people obstructions. It could be that some resources are not there, or some side effects of your change, whatever change you have brought in are there. Supposing you have started music classes, and you're supposed to take your school to another level in music, but they are interfering with the normal education classes because of that. So it's a challenge to overcome, how to have the music classes going on and not disturb anyone else. So it's basically to plan better and to involve everyone in that plan.
So we have one last question, and I think time is also running out, Vivek. There's a question by Balli ma'am. And the question is, if you were given one thing you could change in student behavior, what would that be? How do you improve?
Well, that's a wonderful, yeah, it's a wonderful point. Actually, student behavior comes from parental behavior. And one thing that I would really see is how to handle which couples exhibit in front of their children. It translates into the children becoming negative. So in their behavior, in their personality, if they were more cheerful, more gung-ho and positive about their future, rather than getting into that stressed out kind of behavior, getting into the shell, not communicating enough with the parents and teachers or whoever and friends. That kind of behavior is very worrisome among the students when they go into the shell and become negative. So I would like to change that.
Fantastic. In the thing about change and the discussion of change, I'm very tempted to do a small, just this time, a 3-question rapid fire on you, Vivek.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Tell us your name of your favorite teacher and why.
My favorite teacher was a Mr. Rosario. And Mr. Rosario was my teacher in St. John's, and he was a very diminutive, short-statured kind of teacher who used to teach us mainly maths, but sometimes used to teach us English also. And one day, I mean, I was amazed. He actually beat up, that time they used to slap students at times, a 6-foot 10th class boy who was very, very, very wild and very naughty. He deserved a beating up. And this short stature teacher who we never thought could do it, he actually bashed him up. And that boy became quite a better student after that. He was my favorite.
Wow, so you always wanted to beat people up. I guess that's why you chose the services. That's a joke. Your favorite subject?
My favorite subject of study used to be English, and I became an engineer and went to NIT Kurukshetra, but I wish I had done English honors or something. I would have become a better writer and speaker and thinker, I think.
No wonder you're writing books now. Last one, and this is a cheeky one. Your favorite university campus?
Yeah, so I must tell you, Atul, that Shulini is actually my favorite university campus, and no exaggeration. I've been to Kurukshetra University for my NIT studies. I visited Punjab University. I visited various universities in India. But Shulini has an aura of pleasant, natural kind of aura, which is absolutely beautiful. And the positivity and the research focus, it's my favorite university to visit.
Thank you, Vivek. Appreciate the compliments, and thank you, teachers. What a wonderful time you've had talking to all of you. I'll request Aarti ma'am to please come if she is there and summarize, and we'd love to hear from you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Atray sir and Atul sir. It was great hearing from you both. Lots of views, new ideas, especially the takeaway was the star gurus or the teachers. I think that's good advice. Like now, my teachers need to sharpen the saw and really need to decide on whether they're going to be the star teachers or the assistants to the star teachers. So we're going to work on that strategy. And as per you said that we need to, have a balanced way of working and having a plan. Definitely after this pandemic situation, it's going to take months together when we'll reopen. So we'll have to have good strategy and action plan to see how we'll be working on it. So we'll open step by step, and definitely we'll just bring that synergy and energy back. That inspiration needs to be brought back for the students, the teachers, and the parents, so that we can work together. And it is great listening to you both. Great ideas, and we'll be in touch with you again. And definitely we'll look
Thank
forward
you.
for many more webinars from you. Thank you from
Thank
my team.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks
Aarti
a
ma'am.
lot.
Thank you, teachers. Hopefully, we'll be done with the corona very soon. And if that,
Very
and
soon.
as
Yeah,
and when that happens, we'd love to come and visit you. Probably run a
definitely.
seminar at your school. And of
We'll
course,
love
we'd
to
love to
have you.
welcome your teachers over to Shulini and your students over to Shulini. And like I said, if you believe in partnerships, let's partner and share knowledge, because knowledge should be free. So
That's
once
right.
again, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, teachers. Thank you, Vivek. Always so lovely and charming and inspirational to hear from you. And please, everyone, be safe, be happy. We speak about pushing ourselves and strategy, but the most important strategy is happiness. And that's a topic that Vivek speaks about every now and then. Probably we'll do one of that with you sometime. But have a great day. And once again, truly appreciate the opportunity. Take care.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Lovely. Thank you.